What's the most awkward situation you've ever been in? I was sitting in class and the kid next to me farted and I said, "God bless you," as if it were a sneeze. That should be a thing. Yeah, I like it. Pretty funny way to cut attention. Probably made him feel less embarrassed. When I was a kid I hugged a random dude because I thought it was my dad. Even better how this dude's son was standing next to him. You established yourself as his new son. This poor girl walked into my lecture by mistake about halfway through. This particular professor really enjoys talking to all of his students and was super engaging even with 400 plus students in his class. When the girl walked in, my professor stopped teaching, looked at the girl and asked if she was in the class. She said she was and began walking towards the front where the open seats were. This is a fairly large lecture hall and all 200 students, approx how many actually show up to class, were now forced to watch this poor girl walk towards a seat, because the professor didn't continue talking and just stared at her. She got close to the front and I think the pressure of the whole room got to her and she said, "Actually no I'm not," and turned around and we all had to watch this poor girl climb back up the stairs and out of the hall. I was literally watching my worst nightmare. I was at a funeral for one of my husband's relatives. On my way in, an employee of the funeral home asked me when I was due. I wasn't pregnant, but I am fat and was wearing an Empire waistcoat so I wasn't offended. As I signed the guest book I corrected her and tried to defuse the situation with a joke about burning that coat later. But she just wouldn't stop. She kept trying to apologize and explain herself and I just wanted to run away. Then I was stuck in a small room with her for the next 2 hours. I have sort of an inverse story. When I was pregnant, I gained a lot of weight. One day, while I was very pregnant, I was riding up an elevator and someone on the other side waved at me as they were coming down. I did not know them, but I'm friendly so I waved back. They then realized their mistake and came up to explain. They said, "I'm sorry you look like my wife," to which I cheerfully replied, "Oh. When is she due?" His wife wasn't pregnant. When I was in 2nd grade, my brother and I would always be picked up after school by my dad. We had a green van with a red stripe on the side. So my brother grabs my hand and storms us up to the car. He rips open the door, sits us down, buckles me in, and then says, "Can we get McDonald's on the way home?" We both look up and there is 2 middle-aged adults sitting in the front seat that are obviously not our family. They stare at us, we stare at them. In my little brain we've been staring at each other for at least 10 minutes at this point. My brother unbuckles me, unbuckles himself, we get out and walk away. No words were exchanged. We then checked who was in the car before getting in from that point forward. Okay, so me and some friends were at a restaurant and a buddy of mine was telling us about this new girl he just started going out with a few days back. Well, another friend started telling us about this girl that he banged the previous night. The conversation went on for a minute, and finally somebody asked for the name of the girl that he had banged, and it turns out it was a girl that the other friend had started dating a few days earlier. Q narrowly avoided fight as we convinced him it's better to find out she's crappy now rather than later. The 2 guys still no longer speak though. Last summer my wife and I were browsing for random crap in Pier 1. I'm wandering around the store aimlessly and see my wife kneeling down inspecting some merchandise on the bottom shelf. I approach her from behind, slightly tap the top of her head, and go boop. It was not my wife, just someone who looked almost exactly like her from the back. She looks up at me, all I managed to say was, "Oh. I thought I was married to you, sorry." I was looking at my mom's phone cause she wanted to show me some pictures from what she did that weekend. I swiped one too many times and came across one of her nudes. I felt my soul jolt out of my body seeing that crap. My mom added me to her Google photo album, then forgot. You can guess the rest. I accidentally walking in on my grandmother while she was nude and turned around so quickly to run I broke my toe on the door jamb. I screamed sorry grandma while limping away. Then I heard her cackling at me. My best friend waiting to tell her parents that she's gay, until when I was over for dinner. How was the food though? Good, they had spaghetti. You know, a noodle that is straight until it gets hot and wet then it's covered in balls and sauce. Most George Costanza moment of my life. I was flying back home from a business trip in GA. Before we all got on the airplane, everyone noticed that we would be flying with 3 military canines and their handlers. All good, point being everyone noticed them, and if they hadn't, the pilot was kind enough to point them out when he came over the intercom to give his spiel. A round of applause for our service members and their brave working dogs was given. Hours later in the flight crew had turned off the lights. I needed to take a piss and moved forward in the cabin toward the restrooms. Well, one of the dogs was black and I didn't see his paw sticking into the aisle. Cue the dog yelping and crying. Have you ever had 150 people hate you before? It was made so much worse by the fact that I am a veteran and I love dogs. I am the son of a veteran who was a canine handler when he served. But how the heck am I going to explain that to a plane load of people giving me the stink eye for being the a-hole who stepped on the dog? George, it was a black dog, Jerry. Jerry, and the lights were out? George, the lights were out, Jerry. I walked in on my roommate in senior year of college banging his girlfriend. We had a rule about a hat on the door if we wanted privacy. There was no hat when I came back one morning and I got a full, eye-level, side view of him and her mid-thrust because he had the top bunk. They kind of laughed it off but was pretty awkward for me. Could have been worse, at least it was his girlfriend. Yeah right, could have been OP mom instead. I did community service with a youth group when I was around 10 or 11. Around the Christmas holiday, we bought and wrapped a bunch of gifts to take to an old folks home. I pick up a gift and walk over to this elderly gentleman. I'm swelling with pride and eager to drink in the large glass of thank yous I'm about to be served. He opens a really nice pair of slippers and looks at them for a moment. What the hell am I supposed to do with these? You put them on your feet, I delightfully exclaim. I haven't had feet since Vietnam. So are you two dating? He said yes at the same time I said no, to which his friend told him, I told you you didn't ask clearly enough. Reminds me of the time I was driving a girl back from a date when we got in a car wreck. Rolled the car and everything. Dragged her out through the window as she's bawling. When we were talking to the cop he asked us how long we'd been together. She said we were just friends. Not that I didn't have it coming. Sir, we're going to have to write you a ticket. Your accident was caused by going too fast in a friend zone. I was interviewing for a big promotion at my old job. I had put in the time, the hours, and the effort for this promotion, and I had been passed up a few times, so I was sending out resumes while trying to get this promotion. I go through the first interview, and everything seemed great. They invited me for the second interview. I was so excited. Flash forward 2 days, and I go in for the interview. The interview is with the regional and site managers. Everything is going great. They are asking me what are your priorities, goals, etc. At the end, the site manager changes his posture and says, would you say that you're a loyal employee, Nesabessa 34? Taken aback, I say, of course, I've been here almost 2 years, etc. And like a shark circling his prey, this dude turns his computer monitor around and shows me my private Facebook posts that I posted that I was in the market for a job in the same field. Now, there's no way he could have seen this, as it was a friends only post. Someone I work with had to have tattled on me here. He then proceeds to read them to me out loud, not only the posts about my job search, but personal posts about my health situation and questions that I didn't bring up to anybody other than personal friends. I look at the regional manager and this guy won't look me in the eyes. He is shifting, obviously uncomfortable. I tried to say that I was looking just in case this promotion didn't work out, as I am a college student paying my way through school, but he kept interrupting me and saying loyalty is key. He then tells me we will think about it and points toward the door. The regional manager kind of coughs and goes to shake my hand, but by that point I was already out the door. So I said thanks anyways and then proceed to have the most uncomfortable walk back to my desk. I was wearing heels for the first time in like a year, so I stumbled on my way out the door, with co-workers asking for the details if I got the promotion. Not as uncomfortable as some of you, but this one was definitely a top for me. I am someone who never feels awkward and doesn't get embarrassed, but this moment got me good. I was doing orientation for my college. I wanted to meet the dean of my department and make a good impression. I walk in his office and he is bent over behind his desk looking for something. I introduce myself and stick my hand out to shake his hand. He sits up and he has no arms. I look at him and look at my hand and I am freaking out. It felt like my hand was out there for an eternity and I did the only thing I could think of to do. I ran my hand through my hair and tried to play it off. He never said anything and just started talking to me, but I felt like I was actually going to die of embarrassment. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos and don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it.